Hope you enjoy listening. The reason why the deputy and I are together is because my father used the fact that he once sponsored him to threaten him. So he reluctantly broke up with his first love. When I found out everything, I took the initiative to offer to let him go. However, the deputy kissed me roughly, bit my lips until they bled, then chuckled. What a mess, little girl. Isn't this what you've been waiting for all along? In your second year of college, his first love transferred back to his home country. Fo too wanted to be with her, so he abandoned me time and time again. The last time was the day of the club meeting. The private room caught fire. He didn't hesitate to grab his ex's hand and run away. I just silently watched his back as he left. I was so used to it. I dragged my feet out of the last fire. After that, I agreed with the professor to go on an exchange study abroad. I was the last one to come out of the fire. My hair was disheveled, my face and body were covered in dirt, and I could hardly walk. Of all the people, I looked the most miserable. The class monitor saw this and quickly gave an order. Quick, you two go help him. Hey, your ankle is so swollen, you need to go to the hospital right away. I was forced to sit down on the steps. My ankle was so swollen and painful that I didn't dare move. The class monitor frowned. His eyes scanned the crowd, finally stopping at the deputy, and walked over. What's going on? Are you two angry? His girlfriend was injured and he didn't care. Stop joking around, don't you have a car? Take her to the hospital quickly. This wound can't be treated slowly. Fo too acted like he didn't hear anything. Mantam stood behind him, gently pulling his sleeve. Futu, if you're busy, go ahead. I'm cold and want to go back to school first. After saying that, she coughed a few times. He raised his eyebrows and took off his coat to cover her. Feeling it, he nodded vigorously, just a little. She let him bend down to zip up her coat. The whole stadium was dead silent. Everyone's eyes glanced at me, mostly pitying. After all, it was not common for a boyfriend to openly worry about his ex in front of his current girlfriend. Fo too took her hand, turned around and left. What school? He had a cold before, only getting better with water, go to the hospital first. The class president smiled, tried to hold back his anger, and called him back. Since we're already at the hospital, can't we bring someone along? She's not a stranger after all. Fuzi raised his eyes slightly, his voice cold and slightly sarcastic. This is so annoying. Don't you guys know how to call a car for her? I have to say it straight out that I don't want to take her along. The class president was speechless. You. The deputy didn't care, he dragged Tam into the car. From beginning to end, he never looked at me once. The deputy deliberately made me lose face in front of the crowd. A week ago was our 1-year anniversary. But he turned down my date. I didn't tell him in advance. I held the person, gripping the phone tightly. Auntie, his cold voice rang out on the receiver, making the feeling even more distant. Tomorrow he had promised to Tam that he would go to the art exhibition with her. She had just returned to the country, didn't know anyone, could only look for him. Let's make memories for next time, Kyung-gwen. Remember to remind me next year. I feel like I just heard a bitter joke. He didn't remember the anniversary. He even spent it hanging out with his ex. The next day, as if torturing myself, I went to the exhibition. Standing from a distance, I saw the vice president put a scarf on her, and she put her arm around him. They were as close as if they had never been apart. Until a man came up and started talking. Miss Man, you're back too? Long time no see, is this your boyfriend? Perhaps because of the feeling of being abandoned so many times in my life, a trace of malice suddenly flared up in my heart. As if possessed by a demon, I walked over and put my arm around the deputy's other arm. No, he is my boyfriend. The man's eyes widened. How could that be? I just saw him hugging that girl. I turned on my phone screen, showing him the photo I secretly took while sleeping, and gently pressed it. Moreover, today was our 1-year anniversary. The man looked at Mantam with a complicated gaze mixed with a bit of disgust. He cursed in Japanese and left. Mantam's face turned pale. She bit her lip tightly, suddenly shook off the deputy's hand and turned to run away. The deputy did not rush to chase after me, but instead tightened his grip on my wrist that was linked with his. As he tightened his grip, he sneered. Happy now, girlfriend. I was in so much pain that I tried to pull my hand away but couldn't. Did I say something wrong? He missed you a little, looking down at me with contempt from above. A year has passed and I still make people hate me like this. Last time I was drunk, I asked him when he would like me. His hand squeezed even tighter. My whole hand trembled, turning white from being squeezed so hard. Kyungwin, I'll answer you now. Never. No matter how hard you try, I will never like someone like you. If it weren't for the debt of gratitude to your father, I wouldn't even feel sad looking at him. His eyes were fixed on me, as if he finally saw what he wanted. The hurt and sadness were clearly visible in the depths of my eyes. Fo Tu pursed his lips, pushed my hand away, then turned away to find Man Tam. I stood there, stunned. There was still a red mark on my wrist. The pain was so intense that I could no longer feel it. A year ago, when I found out that he was being with me because my father forced him to, I took the initiative to break up so he could return to his healthy side. But he just lazily sat on the sofa, turning the empty bottle on the coffee table, smiling faintly. He and she had broken up long ago. What's the point of me saying these words now? He pulled me down to sit beside him, held the back of my neck with his hand, and lowered his head to kiss me. That was my first kiss. Clumsy, overwhelmed, not knowing what to do. I trembled and closed my eyes, thinking that the Viceroy had given up the past to start over with me. But he cruelly bit my lower lip, then put his nose close to mine. His voice still intimate, but his eyes were cold and scary. What are you talking about, little girl? Haven't you always wanted this day? The old woman pushed him away, wanting him to be indebted to my father for the rest of his life. He was only with me to repay his debt of love. He never loved me. Maybe he even hated me. For a whole year he tortured himself, but he still didn't let me live in peace. I didn't know when that debt would be paid. But the moment I dragged my feet out of that fire and met his eyes, he unconsciously pulled his heart back, as if afraid that I would go crazy and hurt her. At that moment I felt extremely tired. The class president called a car to take me to the hospital. The scene quickly receding outside the car window was so familiar that it made people sick. After a while, I unlocked my phone and clicked on the chat box with the professor. Professor, I agreed to go on the exchange program. I will fill out the application and send it to you tonight. School starts in 3 months. But I only need a month and a half off so I can leave early. I did almost all the procedures for applying for an exchange program by myself. In the following days, I dragged myself around preparing documents, still limping to bring them to the office. Perhaps because I did not rest properly, my ankle was more swollen than when it was sprained. That day, as soon as I stepped out of the administrative building, the pain was too much to walk. I had to hold onto the door frame, sit down, and rub my ankles. I instinctively raised my head, but my eyes met the eyes of the deputy who was walking towards me. He looked at me coldly, without any emotion. Beside him, Man Tam glanced at me, then pulled his sleeve. Let's go. Fo withdrew his gaze, walked past me without stopping. I lowered my head, blinked several times, trying to make my gradually fading vision clear again. It seemed that, apart from a little embarrassment, I no longer felt sad. After resting for a few minutes, I stood up again. But the next step accidentally caused me to trip on the steps. I closed my eyes, unexpectedly falling into a familiar embrace. The cool, slightly pine scent and the strong scent from his collar were still the same. It was the fabric softener I had chosen for him, the scent he still used to this day. The deputy lifted me up and without a word walked straight to the parking lot. I was placed in the passenger seat. When he bent down to fasten my seatbelt, I turned my head away a little, keeping some distance. Where are we going? I asked softly. Home. Actually, it wasn't really home. It was just the apartment we rented off campus. I had always liked to call that place our home, but the deputy never responded to that statement. This was the first time he had called it that. The deputy bought a spray bottle. When we got to the apartment, he knelt down on one knee in front of me. He placed my foot on his knee. I was not used to it, so I reflexively moved my leg back. He pulled it back and put it back. The deputy frowned, slightly uncomfortable, and said, "Don't move." I felt uncomfortable at all. I can apply the medicine myself. He pulled down his stocking, revealing his ankle, which was swollen like a bun. His brow furrowed even more. His voice was also cold. "So this is how you take care of yourself? Kyungwin, you're so old and still don't know how to heal your wounds?" Compared to his harsh tone, the gesture of him massaging his ankle was surprisingly gentle. The room was so quiet that I could hear my own breathing. Fo Tu was a man of few words. As for me now, I probably no longer have the enthusiasm to initiate a conversation with him. He sat there massaging my feet for half an hour, then went back to the kitchen to cook fish paste for me. The fragrant smell of the paste wafted up and was brought and placed in front of me. I softly said thank you. The atmosphere was rare and quiet. Fo Tu sat beside me, his eyes looking down. His lazy sitting posture, the dim light covering his long black eyelashes. The tiredness of separation in him seemed to quietly deepen with a bit of sadness. After a long while he spoke softly. Last week Atam came home and cried for a long time. He had known her for many years, but had never seen her cry so miserably. My hand paused on the spoon, the steam from the porridge rising making my eyes sting. The vice president continued coyly, "Don't do that again." In just a moment it was as if something silently collapsed, crushed into dust. My heart was empty but also strangely relieved. I nodded, replying to him yes. It seemed the deputy didn't expect me to be so calm. He tilted his head to look at me, his eyebrows slightly raised. After a while, he took the initiative to explain further. He and Mantam were just friends now. She had just returned to the country. There were many things at school that needed his help to get used to. And most a month she'll be fine. As he spoke he took my other hand, placed it in his palm, intertwining our fingers. His voice was also much warmer. "A month later I will relive the day we met. Whatever you want to do I will make it up to you." I paused. "A month? Why? Does it seem too long?" I shook my head and took another sip of porridge. It was fine. A month from now I might not be here anymore. The relationship between me and the vice principal seemed to have been somewhat reserved. To prepare for the exam, I mainly stayed in the dormitory. As for him, he was busy with his own thoughts and did not have much free time. But he started texting me proactively, sometimes even taking the opportunity to bring home some of my favorite sweets. I didn't refuse, just replied with a light thank you. Fo used his deep lake-like eyes to look at me intently, then suddenly said in a low voice, "You seem to have changed recently." I lowered my head to eat the cake, pretending not to hear. The deputy didn't ask any more questions, changing the subject. He raised his hand to stroke my head, smiling lightly. "You asked me before how I wanted to celebrate the day we met. Have you thought about it? Let me plan it." I was stunned for a few seconds before I remembered. But it was never in my plan. I blurted out, "Whatever. Maybe not, don't mind." From the corner of my eyes, I saw the smile on his face freeze. "You said before that day was very important to you." The sweet cream melted on the tip of my tongue. I replied, "It's okay now." Normally the deputy would ask why, but this time he didn't say anything. He just stood still under the dusty old street lamp, looking at me for a long time. Fo Tu suddenly started to take the matter of celebrating our anniversary seriously. Every time he had a new idea, he would send me a message asking for my opinion. Sometimes I would reply to his messages, sometimes I wouldn't. That night, he texted me to ask if I wanted to go hot air ballooning. I was having dinner with some of my friends from the student union. I went out to the private room to get some fresh air, and saw that it had been an hour since he sent the message. Fo had planned it out in great detail. Just reading the description made it hard not to look forward to it. I texted back one word, "want." The next second a text message rang nearby. I looked up. At the end of the hallway, the deputy stood straight, his white shirt giving off a cold feeling, standing out from the crowd. There was a drunk man arguing with him. He randomly raised his hand to touch Mantam, who was standing behind the vice. "I only ask for her blame. What does it have to do with you? She is your girlfriend, right?" The deputy tightened his grip and did not respond. The other guy reached out his hand towards Mantam. She was scared and shrank back, pressing close to the deputy's back. "Don't touch me." The man smiled odiously. "Not bad." His face was smooth. The deputy suddenly shook his hand away. His voice lowered, exuding obvious pressure. "She's my girlfriend. Can you go away now?" The other guy clicked his tongue and left angrily. Mantam burst into tears, wrapped his arms around the deputy's waist, and cried into his arms. The deputy hesitated for a few seconds, then slowly raised his hand and patted her shoulder. "Okay, don't be afraid, it's fine." The door of the private room behind me suddenly opened. "Hey Kyungwin, why are you standing here?" The deputy's back suddenly stiffened. He pushed his heart away and turned his head. Our eyes met, and for the first time I saw a bit of panic in his eyes. My classmate poked his head out from behind me. "What are you looking at?" I withdrew my gaze and went back to the private room with her. "Nothing." The party ended an hour later. During that time, the deputy did not send another message. But as soon as I stepped out of the restaurant, I saw him waiting by the side of the road. A freshman who had just joined the student union chased after me. "Sister Kyungwin, I just joined the union, so I was still confused about many things. Can you give me your contact information so I can ask you later?" The deputy's eyes fell on him. He looked down, assessed him, then smiled faintly. Looking at him, I felt like his eyes were talking. Who still uses such a rustic flirting style nowadays? I nodded, opened my phone and turned on the QR code. "I'll scan your code." "Thank you." He smiled, his dimples clearly visible, sweet and very sympathetic. I couldn't help but laugh along. After he left, I walked to the altar, waiting for you to come back. He lowered his eyes, hiding the emotions in his gaze, and softly said yes, even more silent than usual. The whole way, neither of us said a word. Until we got to the girls' dormitory. I was about to step in when the deputy grabbed my hand and pulled me into his arms. The distance between us suddenly shortened. His eyes stopped on my lips, then he lowered his head and leaned closer. I could smell the faint scent of alcohol from his collar. The deputy and I had kissed a few times, but only in our apartment. He had never initiated intimacy in public. I pushed his shoulder lightly, but turned my head away. He was drunk. Fo kept his distance and glanced at me. His eyes were still bright, not drunk at all. As if he had already guessed that I would avoid this kiss. He looked at me for a few seconds before letting go and stepping back. I turned to leave, but the assistant pulled me back. "Are you really going to leave? Don't you have anything to ask me?" His voice was low and hoarse. I was suspicious. What should I ask? He pursed his lips as if he was holding himself back. "Don't you want to ask why he claimed to be a strong-hearted boyfriend?" He looked at me slowly. "Do you trust me that much?" I really don't understand the adverb. It was obvious that he had previously mocked me for being sensitive and suspicious, and that he didn't hate my jealousy. Now that I didn't care about the matter between him and Mantam, he didn't look any more relieved. I conveniently found an excuse. Wasn't he saying that today to help her out? "You once said you only saw her as a friend." "I believe you. There's nothing worth asking." The alcohol made you no longer cold and restrained like usual. The dark eyes were filled with emotions. He was about to say something when he was interrupted by a female voice. A strong voice, holding a phone and running towards him. Her voice was trembling. What to do? That man seemed to have followed her back to school. "Brother, can you go call the police with me?" The deputy pursed his lips. "Why?" I took a step back. "Then you two can take care of the main thing." "I'll go first, Kyovan." I turned around and left quickly, not waiting for the deputy to finish his words. A month passed in the blink of an eye. All the procedures for studying abroad have been completed. I will leave in a few days. The deputy is still busy with Mantam. I'm weak, who said the anniversary date should be postponed for another week. Mantam is still not used to everything in the club. Can't leave him yet. I hold him then nod. "It's okay. If you hadn't reminded me, I would have forgotten about it." The company's southern branch had problems. My grandmother was very busy but still managed to come to school to see me before I left. It's just a pity that the timing was so bad. He immediately saw the deputy officer stabbing a drunken Mantam at the school gate. Mantam hugged his neck, crying, his mind no longer clear. Why are you not mine anymore?" When my grandmother saw that scene, things immediately became tense. My roommate happened to come home, saw the situation, and immediately texted me to inform me. When I ran there, my grandmother was so angry that her face turned red. She pointed at the deputy and scolded herself. He was clearly referring to that little girl. "You forgot what you are. You dare to betray your wish. If it weren't for my sponsorship, you would be worse off than a dog." Fotu still held Mantam, who was half asleep. Even though he was scolded, he still didn't get angry, and smiled faintly as if nothing had happened. If I knew the price of the sponsorship was to stay with Kyungwin, then it would be better to let me die than to go to school. You're like that. Seeing my father hesitate to speak, a hint of hateful pleasure appeared in his eyes. His daughter. His heart was filled with pity but tasteless. After all, she was born because of you, so what's so good about her? Ever since you forced me to break up with Mantam and forced me to be with her, she has become my tool for getting revenge on you. He spoke each word, each sentence very slowly. Even if Mantam and I were in pain, I would make her suffer 100 times more. My father was so angry that his blood pressure was rushing to his head, and he could barely stand. I quickly ran from under the tree and supported him. Dad, do you have any blood pressure medication? My dad nodded and pointed to the car next to him. From the corner of his eyes, I saw the deputy suddenly stiffen. I helped Dad down the stairs and towards the car. He followed behind, his voice trembling, unable to hide his excitement. Kyung-Gwyn, how long have you been standing there? I didn't answer, just focused on helping my father continue walking. Fo-Tu stubbornly pulled my hand back. Can you give him a chance to explain? He just said that just now because... I interrupted him. Are you free tonight? Fo-Tu's eyes stopped on me, stared, then nodded. I stopped and looked at him. Okay, let's talk tonight. I have something to tell you. Anyway, before leaving, there was still a lack of a formal farewell. The vice president didn't think much and immediately agreed. But in the end, he still broke his promise. That night, I waited for him all night in the apartment. Still can't wait for him to come back. He texted to explain that Mantam had alcohol poisoning and was in the hospital and couldn't leave. Can we talk tomorrow? He'll come find me tomorrow. Messages kept coming with apologies, explanations, and even promises of happiness. This was something I, who was used to him reading without replying, had never dared to think about. But for him and me there was no tomorrow. The next morning I had breakfast with my father. Then the driver drove me to the airport. As the plane was about to take off, I opened the chat window with the assistant. Before blocking you, I leave a final message. Vice President, let's break up. I wish you and Mantam happiness. The plane took off. The female voice on the radio was soft and warm, making me feel sleepy. I was wearing a blindfold and about to fall asleep when I suddenly thought about the deputy's reaction when he read the farewell message. When I confirmed that I would be studying abroad, the topic of breaking up came up once. At that time, my relationship with the vice-chancellor had just stabilized for a few days, and my leg injury had not yet fully healed. That day was a mutual friend's birthday, and we were both invited. When I got to the door of the private room, I heard arguing inside. Deputy, you keep going like this. If you keep hanging around with your ex-girlfriend like this, sooner or later she will dump you. The deputy said bluntly she wouldn't. I promised to make up for the anniversary the other day, and she was happy again. That assumption is worthless. You're too confident, bro. At this rate, one day she'll completely lose her feelings for you. The friend sneered. When the time comes she'll ask to break up, do you agree? Fo-Tu was silent, the atmosphere was tense. Only the friend's faint laughter remained. If you don't want to break up, then prove that you like her. Then please treat her better, okay? If you don't want to break up, does that mean you like her? Fo-Tu sounded like he had just heard something ridiculous. I'm just used to her existence. I heard these words from him himself on that anniversary day at the exhibition. At that time I was so sad that I couldn't breathe. Now I don't feel anything anymore. Fo-Tu took his coat and walked towards the door. He left first, saying that he still had a cold. He would take her to get water. He pulled the door open. Our eyes met. I didn't have time to react. Fo-Tu looked at me, his eyes deep with a bit of scrutiny. Again. Are you addicted to following me? I thought like the last exhibition I followed them here. Was it because I didn't explain clearly about the relationship with Mantam the other day, or was it because I didn't make up for the things that made you keep guessing, did you think? Fo laughed coldly, as if he found himself funny, or was it because he was too soft-hearted and I was inherently incorrigible? I invited you to my birthday party, bro. A close friend came from behind, lightly punched him on the shoulder and pulled me inside. I was really speechless. Next time could you please ask clearly before accusing others? I gave the gift to my friend, found a random place to sit down. The deputy leaned against the door frame, silently looking at me, as if trying to understand why I was so calm this time. The friend started to complain. He had just been extremely sure that the two of them could not break up. Hearing that made me so angry that my brain almost exploded. I picked up a meatball, not looking up. Why couldn't I? Everything in the future was uncertain. Breaking up wasn't something too surprising, it was even very normal. Fo immediately retorted, impossible. He put on his coat, his expression cold. It was his fault for thinking wrongly earlier. He apologized. But Kyung-gwin did not say such angry words. Not every word could be said carelessly. It was obvious that he didn't want to break up, but he left to be with Man-tam. What the deputy said was always the complete opposite of what he did. The flight lasted 12 hours, and when we landed, my back and waist were both sore. When I arrived at the new apartment, my luggage was packed. I opened WeChat and saw a series of messages from my roommate. Xinghe, didn't you tell Fuzi that you were going to study abroad? It was raining so hard, but he kept waiting for you downstairs. Attached was a photo of Fuzi, drenched in the rain, standing downstairs. He'll probably drown at this rate. I'll go chase him away. The next message was half an hour later. Oh my God, the caption is so scary. I went down and told him that you had applied for studying abroad almost 2 months ago. He looked at me like he was looking at me with a dead look. I was so scared that I asked him if he needed me to tell you anything. He was silent for a long time, just said no need and turned away. He looked like a ghost, both gloomy and empty. That was the last message about the adjutant that I received for the next year, until I finished my exchange program and returned home. After entering school, I was busy getting used to the new environment, and almost stopped thinking about him. The only time was 3 months before I returned home. I made my new relationship public on my personal page. The other person was a Chinese student studying locally. That night, before going to bed, I received a strange call from China. Hello, no one answered. Hello, the other end of the line was still silent. At the moment I hung up, I briefly wondered if it was an adverb. But the thought passed quickly and I didn't pay any more attention to it. As expected, the adverb must have returned to my mind by now. Couldn't be him. The 1-year exchange period passed very quickly. My boyfriend had not graduated yet and could not return with me. After I returned home, the dormitory was rearranged. Unfortunately, I was assigned to the same room as Man-tam. When she saw me, the smile on her face was a bit forced. Long time no see, I didn't expect a year to pass so quickly. I pushed my suitcase past without replying. There were 2 other girls in the room. Seeing that, I was about to ask a question but hesitated, looked at me and blinked. Man-tam turned to one of the 2 girls. I remember you said you were in love recently, right? Then remember to keep your boyfriend safe. If someone else notices him and snatches him away, don't cry. What do you mean? The girl with the high eyebrows. Oh, you guys don't know? Man-tam chuckled. Our new roommate, the one who is most famous in school, is stealing other people's boyfriends. Then she recounted the whole story from beginning to end, full of emotion as if she were telling a pitiful and blameworthy story. The whole room fell silent. I lowered my head to arrange my clothes in the suitcase, but I could feel 3 eyes on me. I let out a soft breath, mentally preparing myself to go ask for a room change. Throwing my clothes aside, I stood up, facing Man-tam. I said it. Oh wait. The girl who just said she was in love looked at Man-tam with puzzled eyes. It sounded really unreasonable. Sister Kyo, can this be considered a mistress confessing? Man-tam, that girl looks very cute, without any malice, and her voice is gentle. What I mean is, the 2 of you were separated by Sister Kyo's father, but you didn't dare to touch a financial mole, so you turned around and got a little angry at his fragile daughter. Not to mention that before Sister Kyo broke up, the 2 of you were already acting like husband and wife, right? I stood still in place, starting to wonder if I was really that weak and easy to bully. Man-tam forced a smile, moving her stiff lips. So what I mean is, Sister Kyo is completely innocent. No, she has more faults than her sister. The girl started counting each fault on her white fingers. First, her mistake was not being able to see people clearly, and ended up liking a bad guy. Second, she shouldn't have let the 2 of them openly date, only to let them get more and more outrageous. Finally, the biggest mistake was that when she finished mocking her, she didn't stand up and tear her mouth apart. Man-tam was so angry that she burst out laughing, pushed her chair back and stood up. If you don't know how to respect your seniors, then let me teach you how to be polite. She raised her hand to hit me. I raised my hand to block her in midair, knocking her hand away. What right do you have to teach others? I glanced at her laptop screen, on which was the internship notice. Man-tam, the company you are planning to intern at is a friend of my aunt's. If you still want to work in peace, you better be a little more obedient. Man-tam stared at me expressionless, then smiled slightly. Thanks for reminding me. Then I don't need to fight you anymore. I'm the winner anyway. The deputy is yours now, right? She picked up her bag and left the dormitory. At the same time, the cake order I ordered was delivered. I originally planned to share it with my 3 roommates, but I forgot that one of them was a strong person. There was still a portion left. I put it on the windowsill. You guys share this portion. Both of them said in unison, thank you, sis. The girl who had just strongly objected while scooping up the cake said, sis, you were so cool just now. Be like that in the future. Don't let yourself be bullied anymore. If someone is acting crazy and you don't know how to curse back, just shut them down. I looked down at my palm and clenched it gently. Yeah, I know. Thank you. The vice-chancellor and I are not in the same major, but we still met on the first day of school. That evening was a gathering of friends. You and Mantam came late. I lost to you too. You stick together like glue every day but refuse to admit that you're in love. Are you planning to wait until you get pregnant and then get married? Mantam took his bag and lightly hit the guy who just said, you're not that kind of irresponsible man. Okay? Okay, I know you're the one who protects your boyfriend the most. The deputy didn't react to those teasing words. His black eyes glanced at me and stopped before choosing a seat opposite me. The friend sitting next to me quickly explained that I had really confirmed that the deputy wouldn't come, so I invited him. I shook my head, reassuring myself that it was okay. The deputy's attitude just now was clearly that he wanted to pretend he didn't know me. I felt relieved, and thought there was no need to leave and ruin the whole day's fun. Play It Real or Dare is a timeless game to liven up the atmosphere. The vice-chairman sitting on the carousel stopped in front of me. The person who lost the previous round held several pieces of paper with questions in his hand and chose one. Wait a minute, let me choose a question. At this moment, the deputy who had been silently drinking wine from the beginning gently tapped his glass on the table. He raised his head and looked straight at me. Let me ask. The strange intense atmosphere immediately spread. All the laughter in the room stopped. Everyone had different expressions. Mantam forced a smile, put his arm around him. Let me ask. I'm in the same room with her anyway, we'll be a little more familiar. Fotu gently withdrew his hand. I asked. He spoke calmly. I want to know how much you love your current boyfriend. Is it deeper than the feelings I had for my ex? The silence in the room was not peaceful, but rather like the air had frozen halfway, forming an invisible wall, blocking out all sound. A heavy silence, tense and suffocating. The assistant's lips hurt. His voice was cold. Was it difficult to answer? I opened my mouth, intending to reply to the assistant when the phone rang. It was my boyfriend calling. In the other time zone, it must have been early morning. I accidentally turned on the speakerphone when I picked up the phone. Hello? Honey, I just woke up. Can you say I miss you so I have the motivation to wake up? His voice was still sleepy, soft as if he was doing a farm, resounding clearly in the quiet air, reaching everyone in the room. My face felt like it was on fire. I quickly hung up. Lainey said. Sorry, my hand slipped. Oh my gosh, fall, my precious fall. I have to coax her to wake up. Fall. The teasing sounds kept ringing out. I could only lower my head so low that my hands started to feel hot like they were smoking. That's what it's like to love a super spoiled boyfriend. You have to be extremely careful when using the speakerphone in public. After the noise died down, I looked up and found that the person sitting across from me had left. A man asked, Hey, where's the deputy? He's gone. He said there was nothing interesting and then left. The lively atmosphere quickly washed away the awkwardness caused by the incident. No one mentioned the adverb again for the rest of the party. Life at school gradually returned to normal. Ever since the argument in the dormitory, Mantam had been outside almost every day. He only came back right before the dormitory closed, washed his face and slept, not talking to anyone. So when she suddenly invited the other 3 people in the room to eat, everyone suspected that there was some ulterior motive. Mantam smiled slightly as if mocking herself and whispered, I'm in love. My boyfriend invited the whole room to eat. It's normal. The 2 freshman girls, keeping the spirit of, if you want to eat in mind, happily agreed. I shook my head but didn't go. Mantam didn't even bother to turn around, it was up to him. When it was time to eat, I went downstairs with the other 3, planning to go to the cafeteria to eat noodles. I wasn't surprised to run into the deputy in the dormitory. He was definitely Mantam's boyfriend. I said goodbye to the two freshmen and turned to go the opposite direction. The deputy quickly chased after me, blocking my way. Why aren't you going? I don't want to go. I looked straight at his shoulder and moved away. He didn't move, speaking in a low voice. I made a reservation at the restaurant you used to like the most. Now you don't like it anymore. I turned to the other side to avoid him. Fotu firmly grabbed my hand, his eyes burning as he stared at me. Has your taste changed so quickly in just 1 year? His voice was hoarse, mixed with a complex, wistful suppression. Am I really that fickle? I held him back, suddenly realizing what he was implying. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. A sentence I had just heard recently suddenly echoed in my head. If someone is too much and you don't know how to curse, just slap them. The next second, I raised my hand and without hesitation slapped the deputy hard. My palm gradually became numb. I turned my head and pointed at Mantam, who was standing frozen in the wind. His girlfriend was standing there, and he was here entangled with me. Deputy, don't you find it disgusting? Or do you have a special interest in clinging to your ex-lover? Deputy glanced at her as if she had nothing to do with it, then calmly explained. I don't love her. I just remember her making excuses to pull you out. A year ago he told me he only saw her as a friend. He looked at me with narrowed eyes, his voice so small it seemed to disappear into the wind. But I didn't believe him. I treated you like trash and left without saying anything. I couldn't even look at you. Now I understand that with someone like you, reasoning is useless. Just blame him and his ex for not having limits in friendship. He will make up all kinds of excuses, be forced to promise to change, etc. But he forgot one thing. He has said those words countless times since a year ago. I took a deep breath and said each word clearly. Vice President, I don't like you anymore. Just appearing in front of me makes me uncomfortable. So don't try to hold on anymore, because no matter how much you do, how much you explain, it's completely meaningless to me. Do you understand? Don't bother me anymore. You don't want me to call the police and end up in such an embarrassing situation, right? Fotu slightly raised his eyebrows, his shoulders slumped. He took a step back and turned to leave. The harsh sunlight shone on his white shirt. In that moment it was like an overexposed frame that made his figure look both fragile and lonely. The assistant seemed to have heard what I said, but it was also as if he hadn't heard anything at all. Because I had failed a year, I still had a few subjects left to complete. On the way to class, I often met the assistant who was supposed to be doing an internship. He always stood at a distance, neither too close nor too far, not saying anything or bothering me. But just his presence was enough to annoy me. One time during a career orientation class, he sat silently in the classroom with me. Surprisingly, Mantam also came. The earthquake happened unexpectedly. I don't know who dropped the water bottle. It hit the floor and exploded, making the whole hall chaotic. It was an earthquake. Before the leg piece fell, I saw the deputy rushing towards me. Behind him, Mantam had fallen and was calling his name for help. This scene was so familiar that for a second I thought I was back to that day when the room caught fire. The only difference was that the roles had changed. Instead of a feeling of elation at the change of direction, what rose in me was a heavy sense of irony. I was one of the first to run out onto the field. Soon after, the Vice-Chan appeared. He was covered in dust. His clean striped clothes looked nothing like his usual neat appearance. Are you okay, Kyung-Gwen? He pulled my hand up to check, but I pushed it away, annoyed. I'm fine. I told you before that what you did doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Ever since I escaped from that fire by myself that year, I've learned all the skills to save myself. Vice President, let me be clear. Don't. I need you. I have less dust on me than you. Fotu let go of his hand. He didn't know what else he could do. It was best to try to disappear from my sight. I bluntly threw back a sentence and turned around to leave. The earthquake that day was not too strong. Only about 10 people were injured, including Mantam. When she fell, she was trampled. Her hand was broken due to the strong step. Unable to continue her internship, the company tactfully terminated her job. After being discharged from the hospital, she moved out of the dormitory. I heard that she was mentally unstable from then on, staying in her new room all day, and didn't look for a job anymore. The deputy also seemed to have given up on me. For a long time he didn't appear again. When my grandmother found out, she just coldly promised and laughed. What was going on? Were you too angry? Your girlfriend was hurt and you didn't care. The vice president was once recognized as someone with outstanding business acumen and was highly regarded by a large company, participating in many important projects. That company was a direct competitor of my father's company. In one bidding, my father's company won. Not only did the other side lose miserably, they were also investigated for bid rigging. The main project manager put all the blame on the deputy, who was still inexperienced and had no solid foundation. As a result, he now faced being banned from the industry, unable to graduate, and many other troubles. I no longer had to worry about the vice president. My last 2 years of college were smooth sailing with my studies and internship. My father and boyfriend both came to my graduation ceremony. My father pulled me to the school gate to take a souvenir photo. I remembered that in my first year, he had also pulled me here to take a photo. It was just that at that time, I saw Fotu and Mantam standing not far away, wearing couple clothes, hugging each other passionately. In that photo, I turned my head to look at them, my face full of disappointment and loneliness. This time I was wearing my graduation gown, looking straight into the lens, a bright smile on my lips. It was like returning that unhappy photo from back then. And like I was telling myself 4 years ago, it's okay, just wait a little longer and you'll shine. That's the end of the story. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more interesting stories. Goodbye and see you again.